because lots of people want the recording as well that can't make it on the call. So good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for joining the call. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Zoe, and I've been delivering these Zoom calls on a monthly basis, Menopause Mondays, and I'll give you a bit of a background about me later on, because I've got a couple of guest speakers on here tonight. I just wanted to let you know that I am in the process of carrying out a menopause course, which is really, really interesting. And they have provided me with a document, and it's which I can forward on to anybody that would like a copy. It's basically a menopause tracker sort of journal. And you know, I talk to so many people that when they go to the doctors, they want a test to see if they're in menopause, and it's actually more important to track your symptoms, because if you go to the doctors with those kind of that sort of as a backup, then that's better than them doing a test, because your hormones are fluctuating. You could have a test and actually it could come back that you're not in menopause, perimenopause. So I highly recommend that you track your symptoms, and this document is excellent for that. So that can be emailed over. So if anybody would like that, you know, if you let the person know that invited you to the call, or you know, contact myself, then I'm happy to do that. So so I've got a couple of guest speakers on tonight. So first of all, I'm going to introduce you to Donna. So if you want to unmute yourself, Donna. And Donna's a hypnotherapist, and she's also a nurse, and she's going to give us lots of information and knowledge about how she works with menopausal ladies using hypnotherapy. So Donna, please take it away. Tell us all about it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zoe. So good evening, everybody. Yes, my name is Donna Jones, and I suppose it's worth sort of me sharing a little bit of my background, really. So as Zoe says, I'm a registered nurse, been nursing for sort of 20 odd years, worked in the NHS in sort of senior management role, this was about 5 years ago, and found that I needed to have a total hysterectomy due to endometriosis. So thought, marvellous, you know, this is the answer to all my prayers, all my difficulties will be sorted, but actually found myself thrown into surgical menopause sort of virtually overnight. Now, being a nurse, being a woman, I thought that I sort of knew my stuff, but actually it just hit me like a train, and it was more the fact that I just didn't know what was happening. So I found myself suffering with a great deal of anxiety, actually some depression, insomnia, and it totally changed my personality. So feeling incredibly lost, not really knowing what to do, even though I was on HRT, I found that, yes, things started to settle a little bit, you know, sort of physical symptoms, but that anxiety and that feeling of sort of being a little bit overwhelmed and out of control remained. So I actually went to see a hypnotherapist, as advised by a friend of mine, and within about 4 sessions, I would say that I was back to the place where I'd been, you know, pre all of this sort of intervention. And I couldn't believe the difference. And I was so amazed by it. I actually thought, right, I'm going to go and train, and I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to actually support ladies suffering the symptoms of menopause. So I'm actually going to draw you a little diagram, and just to kind of show, very technical here, got a piece of paper and everything, but just to explain to you, because what we find when we are going through those menopausal changes, or perimenopause, those reproductive hormones are sort of dropping away, ebbing away, and we're finding we have these symptoms. Yes, this is something that is happening, you know, physiologically. But when that finds its path, and when it finds, you know, the body settles, or we start HRT, you would think, okay, you know, this is settling. But what often happens is we have what we call a learned response. So I'm just going to show you here. So if you imagine this is our brain, I hope you can all see this. And I'm talking about 2 particular parts. So we have at the front here, our prefrontal cortex. Now, this is the part that we call our intellectual brain. And it's the part that's really rational and assesses situations, and it's very solution focused. And when we're functioning from that part of the brain, you know, we're on it. We're all good, always positive with the world. We then have this second part, which we call the primitive brain. Now, this is the part, you might have heard of this. Sometimes it's called the monkey brain, lizard brain, child brain, but this is the part where the fight or flight receptors sit. So we've got at the center of that what we call our amygdala, and we sometimes call this the security guard because it is always on the lookout for danger. And it's basically to allow us to survive. You know, if we think about our, you know, cavemen and things, they needed to survive. So they needed to have this fight or flight receptor. We then have, and this is where the trouble happens, what we call the hippocampus. Now, this is sometimes known as the filing cabinet because this is where all of our little learnt response files sit. Now, if we think about if we were, I don't know, to have a massive shock, oh my goodness, you know, that's frightened me, that's made me jump, because, you know, I think there's an explosion in the room. Without even thinking about it, our learnt response would be fear, followed by the action that would be, okay, take cover, you know, I've got to hide. And we know then that keeps us alive. But what happens is when our body is in this fight or flight mode, because all of our hormones are all, you know, to cock, as it were, we then start to have these responses. So this is where we might feel anxiety in our body and in our brain because actually things are a little bit off kilter. But this then becomes a learnt response. This then is a new little file in that template. So even when the hormones have started to settle and plateau, or we've started HRT, and we're at a nice level, and things should be, when we think of the physiological side of things, should be on quite a nice straight and narrow, we have found that we have this learnt response that we keep pulling out of that filing cabinet. Now, what happens then is when you go to these responses subconsciously, you know, we're not doing it on purpose, it's happening all by itself. And this can be things like insomnia. Boom, we're waking up in the middle of the night. Well, why am I doing that? Because for some reason, this response has kicked off. We're in this cycle. What then happens is the hypothalamus is sometimes what we call the chemist. Now, this chemist then pumps out the adrenaline and the cortisol to get you ready for that fight or flight response. Now, what does that do? Oh, actually, that puts your security guard on absolute red alert because it's like, whoa, hang on, I'm in the middle of fight or flight. Your stress response increases your heart rate. It increases the adrenaline and cortisol rushing through your body. Cortisol makes it difficult to sleep. It makes you gain weight because it increases your appetite. And the list goes on and on. So basically, this is the stress response. Now, what also happens with all of these emotions and all of this that's going on in this primitive brain, it drops into our stress bucket during the day. Now, as it drops in there during the day, we often can get that feeling of overflow. Boom, you know, that last thing, that straw that breaks the camel's back, as it were. And we can physically feel that, can't we? You know, when you've had one of those days, your stress response is absolutely on overdrive, and boom, your stress bucket is absolutely overflowing. Now, when we sleep at night, this stress bucket can be emptied because what happens is the subconscious mind connects with the intellectual mind, and we process some of that stuff. Now, if there's a lot going on for you, as in I'm suffering symptoms, I've got teenage children to look after, I'm working full time, I've got elderly parents, whatever it is that's building up in that stress bucket, if we're not having good sleep, and it only also happens for 20% of our sleep pattern, we are not emptying that stress bucket, and we find ourselves remaining in that cycle. Now, hypnotherapy is the same as that REM sleep. The same thing happens when you go into that trance and you have those language patterns. It is pulling through things that are in that stress bucket, processing it in your intellectual mind. And what I then find with my clients is actually they're able to cope better. They've not got that thing pushing the security guard buttons all the time behind it, because they've processed, they're in their intellectual mind, and they're able to focus on the things that are important. So therefore it isn't the miracle cure to answer all the symptoms. But what we can then start to do is go, okay, we've done the basics, we've emptied the stress bucket. Let's get that file out of that cabinet, that learnt response. If your symptoms physiologically have plateaued, we know that some of this can be a learned response. So for example, if you're standing in a supermarket queue and you think, oh crikey, this would be just the place that I wouldn't want to have a hot flush, boom, you can feel it, because you've almost encouraged that cycle, because you would be stressed if that happened, and oh, guess what, it's happened. So we can work on those individual things in that filing cabinet, and we can do what we call reframes, where we take that out of the filing cabinet and we can replace it with a much healthier response. And this is all done sort of through that hypnotherapy sort of trance state. Now, also within my sessions, it's called solution focused therapy, and it's very much about focusing on our positives, because every feeling that we have, every time you think, oh, can I cope for another day with these symptoms, and you look at yourself and you go, stick your tummy out and go, oh, well, I'm feeling fat and I'm feeling miserable and all that. We're planting those seeds in our brain. We're planting those thoughts, and every thought we have leads to a feeling, and every feeling leads to an action or a response. So what we need to do is, like, for example, I had a mad busy day the other week, where I had about 2 or 3 teaching sessions, because I do workshops around menopause and this kind of thing, how we use hypnotherapy. I had 2 or 3 workshops booked in throughout the day, and I had clients to see for one-to-one in the evening. I woke up and felt really anxious, and I thought, gosh, what's that? I haven't felt that in a while. What's that about? But just sitting with that feeling for a moment, I sort of tracked back, well, what thought has led me to this? And what I realized was, well, actually, I've got a lot on today. So actually, I feel a little bit stressed, but I'm feeling that stress because I want to do a good job. I want to be professional. I want to be on time. I don't want to appear stressed when I'm talking about how to relieve stress. And so therefore, as much as it was a negative feeling, I could track it back to what was a really positive thought. And I thought, yeah, well done, because you want to be professional. So my response then wasn't, I'm going to go to bed and hide under the covers and not have a good day. My response was, well, let's get in that shower, let's get the sat nav set up so I can walk out the door and be on time and be organized. So often we can change that perspective of our day. Now, I know when you're up to your eyes in symptoms, it might feel, well, gosh, how on earth can I do that when I've got, so many severe things going on? But step by step, with that slight little bit of positivity and sort of moving towards sort of forward thinking, the solution focused psychotherapy part of the appointment is very much about those tiny little steps. But it is unbelievable how, when the stress bucket's being emptied, people are mapping their positives. So I ask people to write down positive interactions, positive thoughts and feelings, and positive activity, because what that does is it releases serotonin, not only when we're experiencing it, but also when we recall that, because the brain doesn't understand the difference between imagination and reality. So when you sit in the evening and you map those lovely positives, you can find that you're releasing that serotonin again. So you're getting a double dose. You might not feel it, but it's happening. So what then happens is that negative cycle is being broken. So actually, when you've got that clarity, you can say, do you know what? I actually have enough energy now to book that appointment with that GP that I couldn't face because I know that I've had difficulties with conversations, or I can actually make these tiny lifestyle changes, little by little. I can start making a difference, relieving my stress in other ways, because stress completely just exacerbates all of those symptoms that are going on, and just kind of feeds them and makes them worse. So the calmer we can be, the more relaxed we can be, the better. And like I say, this kind of therapy actually kind of works on that, and then the rest of it sort of falls into place. I loved Zoe's offering of, the symptom checker, because again, that's your evidence. And when I do my workshops, I very much talk about, there's sort of steps to it where I talk about, okay, let's get you back in the driving seat. Let's get you in control. Let's fuel that engine. So I talk very much about, good diet, healthy supplements, just good sleep, and how you can have those kind of clean sleeps and all of that kind of thing. I talk about watching out for the potholes. And what I mean by that is very much about looking at where the stress is in your life and how you can eliminate or reduce that, or work on the things that are important to you. And then I talk about resetting your sat nav, because actually it is a transition in your life, and there are lots of changes that happen sort of mentally, physically, emotionally, you know, all around you, and it affects everyone around you. And certainly for me, it was that pinnacle point of, okay, you know, do I want to keep doing what I've been doing for years, or do I need a new challenge? So actually, it can be a part of life where you can embrace those changes. So I think it's really important to have that reflection time around it. So in a nutshell, I've kind of spurted it all out for you, but that's kind of how the process works, and how I sort of work with ladies to, you know, to sort of work on that, emptying that stress bucket, and sort of taking those files out. So it might be that, you know, an opportunity for you to think, gosh, you know, is this something that excuse me, I'm the end of a cold. Is this an opportunity for maybe to think about some little lifestyle shifts and setting some intentions for sort of, you know, reducing that stress, because as I say, I think that's a real key point.
No,
So
that's
thank you.
brilliant. No, that's,
Any,
do you know what, that's really interesting actually, Donna, because you know, you talk about the cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and actually, you know, whilst our sex hormones are declining through menopause, so our estrogen, our progesterone and testosterone, actually they have such an impact on the rest of our, because our body is made up, I think, with something like up to 200 hormones, different hormones, and the stress hormone is a lot to answer for. And actually, you know, that was really interesting what you were talking about, because sort of getting that right kind of, you know, helps put everything into place, and that's actually quite aligned, I think, with how I personally have managed my symptoms as well, from you know, making sure that the diet's good. I've added in some good supplements, and I'm eating well, I'm doing exercise, so you know, and all of those sort of mindfulness things about, you know, doing gratitudes and you know, thinking positive, it kind of helps with that. So thank you so much. I think what we'll do is we'll have a sort of questions and answer thing at the end, because we've still got our other guest speaker, Claire. So I just before I ask Claire to come on, so thank you so much, Donna, that was really good, really interesting. I mean, you know, for me, I was struggling with all the symptoms, the hot flushes, the night sweats, the gaining the weight, the not sleeping, all the things that Donna mentioned. The aches and pains were unreal, and I at the time was advised that I couldn't, or HRT wasn't available for me, it was in short supply, and thankfully I stumbled across some products, and for me it was the you know, a vegan omega that I take. It's got all 5 omegas in it, and I mean, if you Google omega fatty acids, the benefits are absolutely incredible, not just you know, for me, somebody going through menopause, but also just generally for your heart, your eyes and your brain health. And I mean, we, you know, we do a sort of range of products, but the, you know, the omega capsule is one in particular that's been sort of really beneficial to me, and I've also helped lots of ladies. And I just wanted to bring Claire on, actually. I mean, Claire's not actually one of my ladies that I introduced, but Rhiannon, who's on the call, she introduced Claire to our product. So I'd like you to, I'm going to hand you over to Claire. And Claire, if you can just give us your background, because I know you was massively skeptical about getting started, weren't you? And you were really struggling. So please share your journey.
I wasn't so skeptical about starting the omegas. I've been on Juice Plus itself for about 8 years. I started, me and me more or less started about the same time. I used the berry capsules and the veg capsules. No, I found them absolutely amazing. But I was very, you've got to have the HRT, you've got to have the proper hormones going in your body. And every month she checked in on me and said, "Are you doing?" And And in the end, I was like, do you know what? I was having the worst time ever. I was a surgically induced hysterectomy, just like Donna. So I went straight into menopause. I had a hysterectomy at 41, so I was quite young. And 2 years later, it literally hit me exactly like Donna said, like a train. I cannot describe the feelings of it. I was in work, I could feel the stress getting worse. I'm a manager for trauma and orthopedics, so it's a huge speciality. And every day I just found my temper getting shorter. I'm a really easygoing person, but I couldn't hold my tongue. With my children, even my anxiety was getting worse. I started to question myself in my job. Was I good enough? The flashes, the hot flushes in the night were horrendous, aches and pains. I had tinnitus, which is one of the signs of menopause, which is not a really well-known sign of menopause. I've had to have hip injections. I slipped the disc in my back because my ligaments were coming, all loose and everything. So I said to Ree, come on, I'll do it. So I restarted my Juice Plus account, and I ordered my Amigas. Still a little bit, they're never going to work. And I was the person on the call last month who had only been taking them for 10 days. And I could not believe the difference in my symptoms in that very short time. I've been on them now just short of 6 weeks. I've come off my HRT completely because I was getting blurred vision and floaters in my eyes, and I am sleeping better. My anxiety is starting to reduce. It's not completely gone, but obviously that kind of what Donna was saying, my stress bucket is overflowing at the moment because I'm buying a house and we're moving and there's a lot going on. So but I am sleeping better, which means I can deal with that stress better than I could have dealt with even a few months ago. I mean, 6 months ago I told my boss to stop breathing in my office because his nasal capacity was getting on my nerves, and he literally looked at me and went, I have to breathe. And I said, do you need to? Can you not just shut up completely so that I can just get on with my day? And that's how short-tempered I was with it. So the Amigas have helped absolutely amazing. And for me, I've just got a couple of my best friends now. We're all going through the menopause at the same time, so you can imagine what a fun like that is. Hot flashes and everything. And I'm literally in the process now of starting to persuade them to try all these. I use them alongside a menopause complex and some collagen and just some natural vitamins, iron, etc. And for me, anybody who is thinking and on the borderline, it's just trial it. It's you get your month by month subscription, you do your 4 months, and if you don't get on with them, you just send them back. But for me, these are going to be most probably my next orders for at least the next 10 years while I go through the whole process of menopause and start to get back to my normal self, which is definitely not where I was 6 months ago. I feel like I can actually live and laugh again now, whereas 6 months ago I wanted to sit and look at my phone and not speak to a single person. And I do feel like I'm starting to come back, and I do believe that this is purely down to the Amigas and just the natural ingredients in them.
That's amazing, Claire. Oh my God, that is just absolutely phenomenal. And actually, just to clarify as well, or just to sort of give you an idea really of the difference with there's a lot of Amigas out there on the market. I think, as I mentioned earlier, these have got all 5 Amigas in them. So the 3, 5, 6, 7 and 9 Omega fatty acids. Also, the three main omega fatty acids are the EPA, the DHA and the ALA, and ours include the daily recommended amount. And actually, people that are suffering with anxiety and depression, quite often their levels of those are a lot lower, which is why we see so many testimonials of ladies that take these, not necessarily for menopause. We have people that are suffering with anxiety and depression. They're on antidepressants. They take the Omegas and they find that their anxiety and their depression improves. And, a lot of cases, they come off their antidepressants as well. So, they're vegan, they're plant-based. We source from the algae that the fish feed on, so there's no fishy taste either. they're just incredible. And you know, I mean, Claire is a testimonial of an example of somebody, you know, out of lots of women. We have a product stories group where we have lots of people that talk about their stories in there when they take these products. So you know, if you'd like to get access to that, then you know, whoever invited you in on the call, we can pop you in there. So I mean, just before we go to a questions and answers, I just wanted to mention the opportunity to you as well that I was offered. So obviously I started on these products and I was offered the opportunity to join the business and recommend these products to others. And so I became a distributor for these products. So to be honest, I run my own recruitment business, which is very successful. It died in lockdown and I was bored, so I joined this business, and 2.5 years on, I'm still doing it. So some of our ladies join to get discount on their own products, or they just want to recommend it amongst their family and friends. So if it is something that you'd be interested in, then again, you know, please let the person know that invited you to the call. So anyway, that, I think, you know, we've had all our speakers. So has anybody got any questions for either myself or Claire or Donna? You can put it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask any questions. We've got about 10 minutes left on the call, so we've got loads of time. So actually, I just wanted to ask you, Donna, I've just thought of a question. So with the hypnotherapy, you said that you had 4 sessions and then obviously you felt really good. Is it an ongoing thing, or do you have to, is it like having a massage because you've got a bad back and you have to go like for regular massages? Oh, can you unmute yourself?
You know, every time, it doesn't matter how long we keep doing it, does it? Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually, because when I work with my clients, I always talk to them about that I'm giving them the tools for the job, basically, because so much of it is, and when you're in the midst of symptoms, you want to tell someone like me to shut up, but actually so much of it is mindset. And what I mean by that isn't kind of like, oh, come on, get a grip, you're fine, because you're not. But what it is when you can start to understand that you can work on that stress bucket, you can introduce things into your life that, you know, little lifestyle changes and little steps, when you can sort of see the wood for the trees and start kind of making those positive steps, you're then in a much more positive cycle and things develop and grow. And as I say, it's not then that a magic wand has taken away your symptoms and you're all better. It's that suddenly you go, oh, do you know, I feel like I've got my head together enough to take that step. I've got my head together enough to think, yeah, I'm gonna think about exercising a bit more. So then what happens is, because people are taking these little steps, they're releasing serotonin, they're releasing endorphins, they're all the good chemicals, the good hormones, and they are then counteracting against the bad ones, the negative ones. Now, I also always forward a recording for my clients to listen to, so that's of the hypnotherapy session, and I adapt it, you know, make it more bespoke in the session, but there is that one that they can listen to. So, you know, if people have said to me, that will be with me for life now, I'm going to just keep listening to that, keep working on that stress bucket, keep going with those positives. So yeah, it starts, you know, some people will come through 2 or 3 sessions and go, I'm done, I'm game changed, I'm there. And others, I've still got a lady that I see once a week, and I've seen her for over 12 months. And she said, do you know what? This is like my spa day every week. I come to you, I get to talk, I get to relax, I get to think about what's next, clear my head. And then we have hypnotherapy for sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. It's bliss. I just, you know, I shut the world out. So people view it differently, but yeah, it can be just a few sessions, or yeah, take you through forever. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Amazing. Oh, thank you. Has anybody else got any other questions? Oh, hang on. So Paula has said she wants to introduce her. She teaches yoga and fitness for all stages of menopause. It's a 6 weeks course with nutrition and meditation community starting this Thursday. Okay, thank you for that, Paula. So I think actually Paula is going to be another one of my speakers on the call. on one of my next calls. So obviously we'll keep you posted on that as well. We'll hook up a date, Paula, and get that in place. So, but did anybody else have any questions for myself or Claire or Donna? Oh, hi Ruth. Yeah, fire away.
The Amigas, what is it, 3, 5, 6, 7 and 9, can you get that on prescription, or is that just over the counter?
So well, that's a product that we recommend, so that actually you can buy that, you know, I think, 'cause I introduced you to the call, didn't I? So
Yeah.
if that's something that you're interested in, I can send you a link. You can buy that online. And you know, so basically these are the Omega capsules. You get 2 pots like this, which is 4 months worth. So you take 2 capsules a day, but you get the option to pay for the monthly, but you get 4 months delivered in one go, because these can take, I mean, Claire had very quick results, but they can take sort of 6 to 8 weeks to get into your system. They're bioavailable, so they go straight into your bloodstream, whereas a lot of the Omegas that you buy from the shops are synthetic, and the body doesn't recognize a synthetic product. So in effect, you lose it when you go to the toilet, so you're not getting the nutrients in. Whereas because these are bioavailable, they go straight into your bloodstream, which is why we see so many great testimonials. So yes, I can send you a link if you'd like to order that.
I was just a bit hesitant because I was taking biotin for my hair was falling out. I had a big sort of bald patch on top, and so I was taking biotin, which I got from Amazon, but I've actually ended up stopping taking them because I really don't think they're doing anything. So I'm really hesitant to buy more stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with that product myself. I mean, with the you know, I mean, if you Google omega fatty acids, and the benefits are just incredible. And these are actually a so in effect, it's a food supplement. So, you know, we can take in omega fatty acids through our diet, or we can supplement that. So it's basically by taking a supplement, you're bridging the gap with what you're not getting in your diet every day. So things like oily fish is where you're going to get your omega fatty acids from. But obviously, if you don't eat fish every day, and even if you ate fish every day, you know, you wouldn't get the nutrients and all of the essentials that are in these supplements. And I think so. I mean, Zoe's on the call as well. Zoe's another one of my ladies, actually, that she's on the Omegas and the berry capsules, and they've massively improved her hair, nails, as well as her menopause symptoms. And actually, I'm on the berry capsules myself, and I mean, I've always had such a good mane of hair, and when I hit menopause, it started to fall out and it went really thin. And as you can see now, it's really thick again. I've got really thick hair, and it's thanks to my the capsules that I take. And actually,
I'm just one of those people that I'm really, like, I've got a very good diet. I don't eat any convenience food, you know, I make everything up from scratch. But having just had my blood done, I know that my folic acid and my B12's low.
Right, okay, yeah. Do you have to have injections for those
Within
then?
people that I'm just a bit... No, she said it's on the borderline. So I've got a prescription for some B12 something that I have to collect, and just get a multivitamin with the folic acid in it or something, but I can't track any down. So I mean, with
the multivitamin, I would be really careful with those, because quite often with the multivitamin, again, you know, you are better off buying an individual vitamin, because you're not getting the goodness from that. And again, something that's synthetic is you're going to lose a lot of that when you go to the toilet. So I mean, Paul has put there, you also need B vitamins. They are important during the menopause. Exactly. I mean, Jackie was saying she was on Omegas from Holland and Barrett, and she swapped to these Omegas, and the difference for her joints and her night sweats as well. I know, yeah, you were suffering, weren't you, quite recently with those? So yeah, but I mean, we can have a chat, Ruth, afterwards as well. You know, we can talk about that, because there's literally going to be 1 minute left now, ladies, or less than 1 minute. So if I'm just worried that the call's going to drop out, because once it stops, it stops. So I don't know if anybody else had any other questions before the call ends, because I think it's literally. Otherwise, I think we're going to have to wrap it up, ladies. But anyway, it's been lovely. Thank you for my guest speakers coming on. Really appreciate that. It's been really great.